Hello, how's everybody doing? I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of time to log on. And before we get started, I'm really good with this stuff. But how's everybody doing? Today's Friday, finally. Damn. I could have sworn it was like Thursday still. Maybe Wednesday. Not sure. But thank you for checking this out. And if you've been watching, I appreciate you for staying posted. And today we're going to talk about something that I think it's very important right now. And I think that I've seen many videos before about like social experiments pretty much on how to I guess like how to how could I explain it? Social experiments on people when they mm, sorry, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Social experiments on how people would react if they see somebody being like abused. Give me a second. Pickles just decided to come in here. Get out of here. Come on. So that these little guys are always being chaotic. But today we're gonna talk about how pretty much. Let me get my tablet because I have to have notes because I get distracted easily, as you guys can see. We're going to talk about how you react whenever you see somebody, how sometimes like our generational trauma can cause us to pretty much we're trained to protect the family image. Where if certain things are happening, we're taught not to talk about them, not to point them out, because go ahead and like and follow, share if you guys are online. I really appreciate you guys keeping up with everything that I'm sharing here, my little experiences, and hopefully like some of it helps you in some way, you know. And if you guys want to join the conversation, send a message or comment below, and I can definitely have you guys co-host here with me. Hello, Lupita. Hi guys. So today we're going to talk about how one of the hardest like habits to break is pretty much the looking away habit, right? When you see somebody, when we're at a family reunion, we have that moment where like that cousin that gets yelled at horribly, and hello, thank you, and thank you for joining me, Lupita. Thank you. And pretty much like you have that cousin that gets called out, right? And they're like, they're pretty much being like scolded in front of everybody in the family, in front of the whole family, and then the family is kind of like frozen, not even knowing what to do, right? And it's like the unspoken toxic rule, right? What happens when the abuser acts out, everyone else goes into like a trance. We pretend that we don't see it. We pretend that we don't like it's not happening. We kind of like block it out, right? We don't defend, we don't interfere, because we were pretty much taught to like mind your business, right? And it sucks because think about it. The system is already failing us females. It's already failing kids. It's already failing everybody and their mama. How many times do you see somebody that has how many documentaries are out there about people reporting some sort of abuse, and then next thing you know they're like on 48 hours because you know, I just watched one today about this guy that was like this awesome guy. Apparently, he was like, "Thank you so much for being that." Honestly, like you don't even know. Um, but like we were, go ahead and like, guys, follow, share. So pretty much what they did was, she met this guy that was like this amazing guy, right? He was like he fit all the check marks in front of everybody. But apparently, like, he was depriving her from sleep. She would go days on end without sleeping. He was very abusive, physically, emotionally. I mean, like I said, he was trying to play these mental games on her. And as her friends started to find out, she went above and beyond to try to get help. To the point where he finally got arrested because she could, like, her friends would go out, and these are like the friends that you want to have. They literally would still socialize. They would still bring her out and about. They would risk their own lives to be out and about with her because this guy was out and about looking for a weapon to hurt his wife. He got arrested. They begged the judge to put him on a $2 million bail so that he did not get out, because they assured him that if he got out, he was going to hurt her. And guess what happened the moment he got out? Oh, you're going to have to wait. What's up, Danny? So think about it. What would have happened if that was your family member? I would have freaking sued the judge, to be honest. Like, they presented all the facts, but because he had no record, I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna need it. Oh shit! And that's something that we learn. We learn from like our past. So we don't defend. We numb it out. We learn that visibility equals danger and invisibility is safety, right? If somebody's getting yelled at and you just don't say shit, it's not gonna happen to you. I hate that. I thrive on saying no. And I thrive on calling people out in public to make them realize how stupid they look. If you're being an asshole to me, I'm gonna treat you with kindness because I know for a fact that you have some unresolved trauma. And I know how to handle it and defend myself. But if I see somebody that is just shrinking to the sound of somebody else's voice, oh my god, I am gonna you best believe. I remember the bystander empathy experiments too. It's similar. Yes. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And we watch and then we're like, oh my god, no, I would have said something. But then we really don't know how we're gonna react. On Facebook, I was talking about how I watched this other documentary just a couple of days ago, and it actually made me want to talk about this because think about it. The parent is always going to think that your kid, we are blinded as parents by our kids. We believe that they can't do no wrong. Why? You want to know why? Because that means that we failed as parents, that we didn't give them the attention that they needed. And maybe we need to sit back and kind of realize, fuck, we did fail, and I'm going to have to acknowledge it. And there's consequences to that, like my kid going to prison. And I think that at some point parents should be held accountable too, because your job was to raise this kid and to teach him how to be a good citizen. But then all you did was pass on your traumas and made him a worse person ever. Because the more that you pass it on, it's kind of like a little rumor, right? The more it gets passed along, the greater the nonsense is, right? The greater like the greater the lies get, right? And that's how it is. You pass on that pain, the greater it gets. And the more intense the hate gets. So we learn to shrink to be invisible. And we see abuse in public and then we just record it. That's the thing to do now, right? Instead of calling the cops, instead of going up to the guy and punch him in the face, or telling him, like, you know what, man? Like, especially guys that think that they have the balls to do shit, you know? The guys that go to the gym. Use your muscles, man. Don't walk away. Push them up against the wall and tell them what's up. I've always said, and I've told my cousins this, dude, if your dad is being a dick to your mom, I am going to support you 100% if you ever have to find yourself in a situation where you have to punch him in the face. Because that's your mom. And regardless of what type of mom she is, that's your mom. And nobody is going to disrespect her, not even your dad. Because the moment that you stand up for yourself and for your mom, that's the day that he's going to realize he doesn't have the balls that he thinks he has. Because most people that use their voice to intimidate, the person that's always trying to shrink somebody is because They're insecure because they don't feel enough to actually feel like they're worthy of being with that person in general. I'm going to tell you 100% because I've been the asshole too. And you don't feel worthy of having that person because that person, you know for a fact they're good and you can see how much you're hurting them. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people don't think that way. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that she deserves that because she disrespected me. Who the fuck are you? You know, maybe respect yourself a little and then she wouldn't be disrespecting you. I don't know. My thoughts. So then there's also the glass house and the system failure. Well, we talked about the system failure, right? Where I saw it too. Like, there's orders of protection, and what happens? The lack of checking things, the lack of reviewing stuff, the lack of checking to see, you know what, this person is probably in danger. I'm going to take her word for it, regardless of this person not having any history. Maybe they were able to get away from the system. Maybe they were able to get, you know, in between the cracks. We got to start showing up for ourselves, for each other, you know? Like, we complain about how our whole society is broken and divided, but then we don't do anything to fix it. You can start by fixing it at home, maybe raising your kids better. Maybe instead of being so worried about what the neighbor's driving, you should probably pay attention to what your kid is learning in school. We're so wrapped up in the material world that we lose track of time because we're always chasing something bigger and something that we're not even going to take with us. We're so obsessed with the money, we're so obsessed with the shiny objects, we're so obsessed with, like, oh, my neighbor has this car, well, I'm gonna get a bigger one. And I'm gonna tell you because at some point I had the means and I was competing with people that had been in life a lot longer than I had. Had they done their work? No, because they were also trying to compete with somebody who hadn't even experienced life. But I can tell you for a fact that I'm not there anymore and that I learned a lot. And that I learned how to read people even better thanks to them. And that I'm not the person they met before. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, shame on me, no? Now, fool me 3 times, that's not going to happen because I'm going to slap you in the face. No, don't do violence. Violence is not good, okay? So pretty much the don't ruin the family reputation too, right? That was a big thing here in my family. We know that if we call the police, for example, you don't want the neighbors to find out. But you know what? The neighbors can hear you yelling when they're walking in front of your house. They see you walk out to your car and how your person is like throwing hands and shit. Or when you're out in your backyard, they can hear you too. You're a fool if you think that you can fool people, especially if you can fool your kids. You grown up baby. I love it when I got to see, I'm gonna go a little girly now. But I think that the best thing that has ever happened to me was to encounter a person that used their voice to try to intimidate others. And that at some point I was allowing myself to get dragged in that. Like at some point I hated going there because I would already like be shaking the whole day because I was like, I'm gonna punch this fool in the face. And I'm glad that I never did. And then the day that I actually like was able to talk without stuttering because I was more sure of myself, I shut him up good. And guess what? Never again has he raised his voice at me. At this point, the kids don't even think. They see us in different levels. And I can tell you there's respect for me. And there's fear for him. And it feels so I thrive out of that. I thrive in proving people wrong. And not having to raise my voice. It's such a fucking amazing. It's euphoric. Let's put it that way. And I want you guys to feel like that. To be able to have that high that you get from alcohol, whatever you want. But you don't even have to do any of that. Like, think about it. You don't have to do any of that because you're being chill. You're being chill, you're composed, and you speak facts. That's the best part. Kill them with kindness, kill them with truths. Get your facts straight too. I love having proof. I think documentation is everything. I think that's like the nerd side of me that comes out because I'm gonna have proof. Don't tell me that I didn't do something or that I didn't say something and expect me not to freaking call you out on it. So, what is it that we do, right? We stay silent to keep the peace. But the peace is fake because you're not at peace. It's the thought that, like, it's that lie that safety is silence. No, it's not. Safety is speaking up for yourself because let me tell you, somebody, like, in my idea, when I spoke up about my situation, you know what I thought? I was like, at first, I was like, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that this happened to me and that I didn't speak up because I was scared. I was scared that my mom, because, like I said, sex was like a taboo. Like, I thought I was going to get pregnant with a kiss because when my mom had that talk with me, she made me feel like it was the worst thing ever. And it was like, don't you ever do it until you're old enough. But she never explained exactly, like, you know what, Mija? Like, there's going to be a time when you're going to have these needs or whatever, or you're going to want to try these things out, something. When I came out to my mom, she told me to shut up. She didn't talk to me for 3 days. And then she finally came up to me in the middle of the night and said, come here, we're going to talk. Because she had already not slept for 3 days. My brother said, ha, you're a lesbian. Apparently my sister had to go talk to a counselor because she didn't know how to deal with it because she thought, what am I going to do whenever I have to go chaperone for my sister and her girlfriend? I'm going to feel weird. Finally, my mom decided to talk to me, and her fear was what were my grandparents going to say about me if they were going to reject me? So she said, please don't say anything. I don't want anybody to know because I don't want them to say bad things about you. Think about it. I understand her worries, but she was actually trying to tell me to shut up and like suck it up and pretend like I'm straight. And that just confused me even more. Because I realized that anything that was about me and it wouldn't fit the mold was not supposed to be talked about because we don't want to disrupt the peace, right? So it made me feel insecure about a lot of things. And it made me put on all these masks and it made me think that I had to fit in order for me to be loved. And I ended up in many unwelcome places, putting myself in situations that I should have never been in. That right now I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking, you know? But I learned from it because guess what? I'm never going to be in that situation again. And if I am, shame on me. Shame on me, and I hope somebody calls me out on it and tells me, remember what you said, Rocio? Practice what you preach, bitch. Because I'm that person. I'm going to tell you when you fuck up. I want somebody to tell me when I fuck up. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. And that's what I'm here for, too. To tell you what you need to hear, not to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not here to cuddle your pain and protect you and continue to lead you on to be the victim. No. We need to move past from that. Because everything else flows after that. Everything that you ever wish for flows after that. And I can attest to that. And that's why I'm doing this. Because I want to show you how much everything is connected, how much all the stuff that you didn't believe in existed is connected simply with just how you think about yourself. Think about it. We don't all think about unicorns because somebody put the idea in our minds. And it comes from your roots, from your cultures. Everybody was taught to fear Santa Muerte. In my culture, I thought it was like a narco thing. I thought it was like a drug dealer saint. But no, she's the saint, or she's like the root, the main, like the main god that our roots, our ancestors used to pray for, used to pray to, and they had to hide her in order to keep her alive. Because when Christianity came and religion came, they wanted to destroy all these other things. Why? Because she teaches you how to let go and die a piece of you in order so that you can, in order for you to be reborn again. And that's what Mary Magdalene teaches us. Think Think about it. Anything that has to do with a female being empowered makes it's like a bad thing. If a female gets all the guys, she's a hoe. If a female has some sort of enchantment, some power to attract certain things, she's a witch. But if a guy does it, man, he's a player. MVP, he's the GOAT. Why? Because they have to say these things to themselves, to lie to themselves that they're better than us. But you know what? You give life. You create life inside of you. You know when people lie to you. That intuition, that's a gift from Mary herself, because that was her job as one of the apostles. She was the apostle of the apostles, but Peter Pumpkin Eater was a jelly bean. So they had to lie about that, because if we truly found out our true potential and our true powers, guess what? We wouldn't be followers. We wouldn't be in the situation we are right now. We wouldn't even be in this world, because this is all fucking prison. This body is just the vessel. And if you believe otherwise and you think I'm on crack or whatever, then shame on you. Go ahead and live in your misery. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I feel like I'm doing all this nonsense because honestly, I wouldn't have imagined myself doing all this. Talking about my personal life, sharing the most deepest and darkest things about me, the things that made me feel gross for being a female. And it still feels a little bit weird speaking or saying those things. As you can hear my voice, I felt it fucking shiver or shake, I mean. Why? Because I want to teach you that if I can do it, if somebody like me can do it, and I have journals, many journals to show for it. And that's my goal, to get all my shit together, because I documented this the moment it started, the moment I decided to make that video and tell everybody what was going on in my life. That the whole freaking, first I had to go through it myself. First, I can honestly tell you that I could have rotted away here, unalived in my house. My dogs would have been fed, for sure. But people would have probably waited or lasted a couple of days before they find out. My sister that lived here probably wouldn't have noticed until she smelled me. She smelled the rotting flesh. Thank you so much, Lupita. Like, honestly, that's, thank you. And I appreciate that. Thank you for telling me that, because those are the little things that, like, it may seem like a small comment, but it means the world to me. Like, I love hearing when somebody that I never expected would have talked to me and says, hey, you know what? Like, I want to go and talk to you. And I'm inviting you guys, like, if you ever want to jump on a freaking live because you can't come to my house, then by all means, let's do this. Let's set up a date. On Sunday, I'm going to have a friend come over and we're going to have a chit chat about her experience. I also chat every now and then. We can do that. If you guys want to do shots while we're talking about your experience, let's, by all means, let's do it. But what I want is for you guys to feel comfortable in speaking your truth, because when you start talking about it, it doesn't feel as heavy anymore. I promise you that. And if you can stand, if you're a person that cannot do things for yourself, then do it for somebody else and then see how it feels. Imagine when you do it for yourself. Every morning this week, like, I've been writing to myself about how proud I am, which is the first time I ever done that. I'm always talking about the bad things that I do. I always write about all the freaking things that I failed at throughout the day or the week. But I never give myself credit for the things that I do or that I've already accomplished. But I started to learn and say, hey, you know what, Rocio? Like, you said you were going to do this 3 times a day this whole week, and it's already Friday, man. And you haven't bailed out as much as you have wanted to, and as much as you've been drained. You haven't done it, and that's fucking badass. And it's cool because, like, it gives me all this energy, and things can go right, and then I feel a little bit of less, like, confident, and then I can see my powers kind of just diminishing and things slowing down. But that's just me having to be okay with not having an exciting day every day. That there's going to be some slow days, but then there's going to be some heavy days. And I love that. I love that feeling of being too busy that the day seems too short, because I know that I'm doing something that I like. And you know, it's crazy. Like, I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she hasn't seen my lives, but she automatically expected that I was shit talking about my family. And I'm not. I'm not here to talk shit about anyone. I'm literally here just to show you that it's okay, that you're not the only one, that nobody's experience is greater or smaller than anybody's. Everybody's a different mind, and everybody experiences things differently. Everybody takes things differently. Why? Because we all had a different childhood. Maybe we all suffered an alcoholic dad. But you know what? Everybody is different. So maybe my dad was a little bit louder than yours. Maybe your dad slept all day. My dad wasn't home never. And if you can't stop the abuser physically, then stop the gaslighting. You know, that's another thing in my family that like, let's say for example, my mom is the like guinea pig all the time. And I hate that. Because they tend to do it and they know when to do it. Because they know I don't stay quiet. And I hate hearing whenever they say, "Oh, pues es que your uncle said this to me," but then they started saying that I shouldn't tell you guys this. Like, don't say anything, please. Don't tell them anything because they said not to tell you guys anything because you guys already don't like them because of of the things I say. I'm like, Mom, my opinion about my aunts and uncles are because I've seen how they behave. I've seen their intentions. I've felt their intentions in their words. There's nothing you can say to change my opinion. I am my own mind, and you can paint it all nice and rainbow and butterflies, but I can see what it is, Mom. I'm not stupid. So what happens whenever they get together? That's why I stopped going, and in a way, that's why I want to get there when everybody's already drunk. But then I'm a little old lady and I go to bed really early. But that's the only reason why I want to go. Why? Because I want to be there when somebody says, "Oh, it's because Rosa did this." Who the fuck are you to talk shit about my mama? My mom has 10 brothers and sisters. She came from 15. She was actually the third pregnancy because my grandma had a set of twins and then another person. Then my mom. My mom's the oldest, so she didn't have a childhood, right? So she's taking care of everybody to the point where not only did she raise all her brothers and sisters, but when my grandpa was at his finals where he needed to be bathed, to be cared for, to be fed, guess who was there every single day? Guess who my grandpa needed and actually became like a little baby and would only work with her? My mama. Why? I had to have a conversation with them and tell them I cannot believe that my mom is literally bound to being here 24/7 because neither of you guys complete one extra person. Because you guys assumed that because my mom was taking care of him, my grandpa would be in bed until 10 o'clock on Saturdays when my mom wouldn't go. Already like soiled and stuff because so and so woke up late. But my mom would always leave her house at 7 in the morning because she knew what time my grandpa woke up. To the point where like my grandpa was already in this like child state where like he didn't want to eat unless it was my mom, or he'd be like, "No, it's because they don't take care of me like you do." But then when he was gone, everybody was hurting. Everybody was like, "If only I had." That's the thing. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the had I only done this, would have, should have, could have. That doesn't exist. When you see your neighbor getting beat up, and God forbid something happens to her, you're gonna live with that guilt of like, fuck, I was there and I heard and I didn't do anything. Avoid that for yourself, please. And don't do it just for a stranger. Fuck, do it for yourself. Do it for your family members. Because it could be your aunt, it could be your cousin. Don't tell me you don't know how to recognize it. If they're isolated, if you don't hear about them anymore, come on, that's a common sign. Look for them. They're not going to come and tell you. If the mountain does not go to you, you go to the mountain, or how is that saying? So how do we stop the pretending? We validate. Even if you can't stop them physically, you can stop them you can stop the gaslighting, right? You can look at a child and say, "You know what? I saw that and it's not cool." Like, for example, I said how my aunt, she used to hear me with my dad arguing, and how he used to gaslight me, and how he used to like pick at me until I reacted, and then he would hit me because I reacted. And she would be in her room crying because she felt like she needed to be out of it because it's not her family. Imagine what would have happened if she gotten out and said, "Hey, bro, what you're doing is not right." I bet you for a fact my dad would have been embarrassed, and that would have been the last time it would have happened. But I don't blame her for that. You want to know why? Because that's all she knew. And that's where we need to understand ourselves in order to understand everybody around us and their behaviors, and to let go of hate that's not even ours, pain that's not ours. Everybody around you behaves the best they know. And you can tell, your body can tell you right away when somebody is not being genuine. That nasty feeling in your stomach, when your stomach turns whenever you hear somebody's voice or somebody's name. Maybe that's a fucking sign right there, man. You validate the reality. That's like the first step. If you're at a house party and you see your cousin getting yelled at, and then go and tell the dad, like, whoa, what are you doing? Do you think that somebody's gonna listen in the midst of like arguments and yelling? No. So why do you, a grown adult, argue with the child instead of explaining like, hey, you know what, mijo, don't do that, because this is gonna happen if you continue to do that. And if you continue after I've already told you, then I'm gonna ground you, or I'm gonna take this away. There's gonna be consequences, and actually follow through with your consequences. Because I was the kid too that my mom used to be like, te voy a pegar. So I already knew how far I could get. Let's put it that way. I knew that if I asked 100 times, I was gonna get a yes. And I knew she was gonna tell me, and she was gonna tell me, te voy a pegar if you don't stop. I'm gonna tell you this, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, at one point, I would have the audacity to be like, ay, Emma, like, why are you doing this to us? Just say yes. You know that in the end, you're gonna say yes. Am I proud of that? No. No, because I had to sit with that. And like many times whenever they would bring this up, I would like get tense and be like, you know what? Like, well, then you used to do this. What is it? Isn't that the common thing that you get whenever you tell somebody that they're not doing something, or they're doing something to hurt you? And I'm telling you because I do this a lot. Our protection is to automatically call out the other person for what they did in a similar situation, instead of saying, fuck, you know what? I'm sorry. Is there something, or can I do it a different way? What do you expect from me whenever the situation happens? Because you know what? I can't read your mind. I can only work with you as much as you let me work with you. But I'm not a mind reader. I can have a lot of powers to do a lot of things, but I can't read your mind, because guess what? We both went through different traumas, different experiences. So my reactions may be a little bit different than yours. But we don't know if we don't communicate. That's the thing. And we're so scared to talk. We're so scared to speak up. You see the cashier getting yelled at by a freaking stupid ass guy, and then you're like recording it and posting it on TikTok or posting it on Facebook. Instead of saying, dude, are you listening to yourself? You're 60 years old arguing with a 20-year-old over a scent that she did not make a price for. I understand you want to be heard, sir, but go work it out with your wife or your house or something. You know, this is not the place. I had guys come up to me in certain situations and try to shit talk about their baby mama, and I'd listen. I wasn't, whether I agreed or not, I would just listen. Would I tell them, dude, well, you're a piece of shit for thinking that? No. In the end, I would just say, but you know what? That's crazy. Like, I hear you. And it's like super stressful. But you know what? Like, in the end, think about it. What are your kids going to think? Or what is your daughter going to allow? Because she saw you behave this way with your dad, with your wife. I mean, you should be worried about the relationship you have with them, no? If it's already over with the wife, then let her live her life. Oh shit, that totally rhymed. If it's over with the wife, let her live her life. But it's true, like, live and let live. Believe me, it's good to have memories. I understand some of those may be painful sometimes. I don't know. But why do you do that to yourself? I lived in misery. You like that? I lived in misery for so long. Every day I would wake up and my chest, it was like this wave of like, you know that like first day of school feeling? But it was like a heavy feeling of like, I'm here again. This is my life once again. I'm nowhere near where I wanted to be. I failed another time. Once again, my life is miserable. And once again, I have to start all over again. Because I was chasing things that weren't meant for me at that time. I was so proud of the material things that I had. And then eventually I was like, you know what? Like, fuck this. I'm like a hoarder, as you can see. Like, I have things in my garage. I have like this basketball net, like the pop, it's the Papa Top. No, that's a bar here in Yuma. It's the Papa Shot or something like that. Because I thought I needed it. It was a need to have so that the kids would play when they were here at the house. They only played with it once, and then now the thing turns on and off by itself only when we're in the garage. And we don't move like the lights or anything, so I think that thing's haunted. But I was so attached to these material things that I was like, nope, I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need it in some sort of, one day or another, I'm gonna need this in the future. Simply in the month of October, I gave away like 3 or 4 guitars, when guitars are like everything to me. Why? Because the first guitar I gave away was a brand new guitar, and it was a few years ago, and it was my cousin because she said she wanted to learn, and I'm all for it. Why? Because they didn't support my music or me wanting to learn music. Like if I was like this failed artist. No, I don't. I do it for myself. I feel a little guilty of emotional attachment to items as well. I need to, yes. And like lately, I feel like I just want to get rid of everything. Take everything out. Man, I have boxes here from like that keyboard that's back here. I don't even think there's anything in it. But I was like, I'm gonna need this box for whenever I move. I've been here for like 6 years. And I got that keyboard like 4 or 5 ago. I bought too many things that I didn't need. Right here, I'm gonna show you. Like below my desk, this is the clutter I have. Right there is like a headset and some speakers that I was gonna set up a few years back, but I haven't. Because I thought I needed it. And I kept buying more speakers. I kept buying karaoke sets. For what? I haven't used any of them. I think that doing these lives is probably the most that I've used any of this equipment. But I said I was gonna need it someday, right? I guess I was preparing myself. I don't know. But now it's like I want to get rid of everything. I just literally like if I move, I'm only gonna take like my instruments, my tattoo stuff, my desk, and I just want to leave everything. Like fucking get rid of everything. Just start clean. I don't want anything anymore. I literally am too lazy to take everything out. I just want people to come and ransack my house. No, please don't do that. But I'm just tired of everything. Like I'm tired of all the old stuff that is in the house, And it's good because sometimes when you have too many things in your house, all that shit holds energy. All that clutter makes you feel heavy. The darkness in your house. Let the sun in. You need a little sunlight. Shit, if you're not going to do anything in the day, go for a drive because you need sun. It gets you wide awake. Even if you don't go out, get ready in the morning. Like if you are going to go out, be ready for the day is what I tell the girls. Because if you're staying in your PJs all day long, you're going to you're not going to do shit. And then you're going to feel like a loser and like you haven't accomplished it. I'm telling you, I feel that many times. But these little things, like I haven't failed myself this week, and I am so proud of that. You love your big windows, you see? Exactly. I'm all for it. Before I was all about black furniture and black this and black that. I want as many plants as I can get now. But it's a little dark in here in the house, so I want to start opening windows. Let the sun I can see clearly now. The sun. Oh, the rain is gone. Like, this change of scenery, change the freaking color in your house. I don't know. If you haven't used it in the last 2 years, take it out. Give it to someone if you don't want to be too far from it. I had a Jeep that was my pride and joy. I've always wanted a Jeep. My goal in life was to have a Jeep, and the day that I got a Jeep, that was going to mean that I made it. And I had my Jeep. I had my 2007 Jeep Wrangler Sahara 2-door 4x4. I was an automatic. And it was completely stock. But when I got it, it was like lifted. I ended up putting a little Cali lift. It was like 5.5 inches in the front and like 4.5 in the back or whatever. Freaking nice. Then the opportunity came to get another one. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to run with this. I was $12,000 away from paying it off. But then one month I was like, you know what? I'm struggling because I needed to leave the other place that I was in because it was not good for my mental health. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I left. And now where I'm at, I stayed too long because of the money I was making. That was one thing that I had to let go first, was the money. And I did. And then I realized that I could survive with less. And that I was still happy. But then I was like, I'm still struggling. I don't need this. I don't need these cars right now. I don't need this money right now. Imagine like saving myself almost $1,800 in car payments and insurance. Fuck yeah. Let's do this. I want an old car. That was my thing. I wanted an old car that was stock. I have a little Kia Spectra now. 2002 Kia. I've never even driven a Kia in my life. I didn't even pick the car. I just said I need a car that takes me to and from. And guess what? I also have my bike that I said I was going to get. And in a week I had. Did I have the money to get it? No. But everything laid out for me in a way that I was able to get it without having to spend the money. And that's the cool part. Like, that's what I like. It feels so awesome when you just set your mind to do something and to accomplish it. And by simply showing up for yourself, you learn to defend those people that maybe don't know how to. And that's your purpose. Your purpose in life is to figure it out so that you learn compassion and that you learn to speak up for those who don't have a voice. That's what I'm doing. All my ancestors suffered a lot. All the females in my family suffered a lot. I can tell you for a fact that both sides of the family, all the females, my mom, my grandma suffered in a different way. My grandpa was an amazing guy, but he also failed in his marriage, and he actually wanted to make it up. And he died until he died making it up for her. But even then, she was still suppressed. She still didn't do the things that she wanted. She was a very creative lady. She made candles. She painted a mural on her kitchen wall. She made artisanal stuff with her hands. She made all my aunt's wedding dresses and quinceañera dresses by hand. She used to make me t-shirts from Ariel, and she used to decorate them for me. She was a crafty lady, and two of my uncles actually, are super crafty like her. But they don't give themselves enough credit. We don't give ourselves enough credit. When I started recognizing what I was going to accept and what I wasn't going to accept, and how I was able to deliver it without letting go of myself, without losing my patience, that's when I started to speak up. Like that guy was trying to freaking think that because he was in line and his question was smaller than what the other people had in their hands, that he's like, I was in line at the store, and the guy's like, do I have to wait for all these people in line in order to get help? I just looked at him and I said, that's kind of how lines work, sir. Crazy, right? It made him feel stupid because, yes, sir, you're going to have to fucking wait in line because your time is not more valuable than mine, let me tell you. But we sometimes say, oh, this guy has to go. You know what I hated being in service? When somebody would come 5 minutes late to their appointment, saying that they had to go somewhere else in a certain time frame when everybody else was coming in time. But they wanted us to be like, sir, guys, stop because this person needs to go. No. Everybody else can, exactly. And that's because we raise our kids like that. Tell me, why is it usually, there's always the culture, no? La raza nosotros. The Mexican that made it in the USA, that all of a sudden doesn't know Spanish. Bro, you have the nopal right here in your forehead. You have that eagle sign of Mexico right here. Don't come and tell me that you don't know Spanish. And if you don't, then shame on you, bro, because you live in a country where it's built by immigrants. You're not even from here, bro. Native Americans are the only natives of America. Learn to adapt. And it's not because you need to, because, oh, we're in the USA, so we got to speak English. No, sir. It's courtesy. It's common courtesy. Just like people have to learn your language to communicate with you. If you want to be involved in something, you have to put the fucking effort. It's common courtesy. Nobody's going to respect you if you treat others like that. Somebody's going to punch you in the face in one of these rallies. What happened today? One of these little Trump supporters ran over a kid while he was protesting against the ICE protesters. You see what happens with your actions? You're trying to do something stupid. What is it? Fuck around and find out. You do something stupid, you get stupid consequences. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. If you see somebody fucking getting abused, stand up, because you know what? If you feel guilty if that person ends up being unalived or whatever, good for you. I'm glad you do. I'm glad you have that, to carry that guilt. Because I know for a fact you're never going to face it. So you're going to die with that shit. You should feel ashamed of yourself for not standing up. And I hope that you remember that every single night when you go to bed. I hope you see that lady in your dreams. Because you should fucking speak up if you see somebody going through it. Don't think that it's none of your business. Yes, it is. It became your business when you found out. And if there's something that you can do, I understand when somebody doesn't want help. What's up? Y la Brianda, que tranza por la carranza, Brianda. I said, you know what? I want to be like Brianda. I'm gonna be doing my TikToks now. Irala, gracias, gracias. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. A ver cuándo nos juntamos, porque la neta no hay cotorreo como el de la Brianda. Si estás así de loca como estás en la high school, then I'm pretty sure. I always remember, and my brother ended up hanging out more with you than I did, so siempre me dice, hey, te la Brianda. I was like, how do you know? You don't know her, she's my friend. Y tómalas, me cayó. But yeah, like, seriously, guys, like, fucking speak up. I thrive. Siempre que salgo like, anytime I go to the store, I'm waiting. I'm looking around. My wife's like, you're not paying attention to me. No, yes, I am. But I know there's a lot of fucking stupid people around here, too. And I've been on the other side of the counter. So I'm looking out because people are fucking unhinged right now. Like that kid that got off because of whatever nonsense, thought he was going to destroy the car with his foot, and then he got ran over. Don't do that, guys. Now the other guy's going to be like attempted homicide or whatever. And you know what, guys? That's because anytime your kid had a tantrum, you gave him what he wanted. Kids nowadays don't fucking know how to go in the bus. 19, 18-year-old kids don't know how to go in the bus. Because we didn't deal with our shit. We coddle our own kids, and then we ruin them for fucking... We ruin them, and then they go out into society embarrassing you as parents. I think that anybody that causes any type of unaliving in any type of school or any type of anywhere, the parents should also be held accountable for that. Because many times parents encourage that type of behavior. So shame on you guys. If your kid is a brat to you and doesn't respect you, then maybe they do need a slap in the face. That's not child abuse. That's knocking some sense into someone. And a slap in the face doesn't mean beat them until you're fucking tired. It means one slap in the face and say, hey, you need to react, kid, because we need to freaking check who is what here. I don't condone and I don't think that you should hit your kids. No. I was beaten up for reacting to reactions that were caused on purpose. So like my dad would come home and he'd be like talking shit about my nose, talking about my mom, how he was. I have possessive issues because my dad used to tell me that my mom was his. And then he used to make me mad and then say, "Ooh, pues I'm gonna go with my daughter from Tijuana." So I grew up believing he had other kids. And guess what he did? He has another fucking kid. So when the kid came out, of course I'm not gonna fucking welcome him. I'm sorry you had to be the same, you had to be born from the same guy, and I'm sorry that you had it worse than us, but that's not my problem. That's not my business. But you know what sucks whenever the people that you grew up with are like all crazy about this kid. But your mom had to call them to let them know about you guys. Your mom had to like beg for them or call them in order for them to be updated on our lives that they didn't ask about. That's crazy, right? And maybe it's something that I'm gonna move on from later on. I don't know the kid, I don't have any bad wishes or anything, but it's just something that it's like it is what it is, but I'm not intrigued, Because there's nothing to be intrigued about. I have too many things going on right now in order for me to put myself in that situation of having to carry something else more. Like one more thing. We only have one life, and it's borrowed. You came here for a purpose, and let me tell you, money's not it. Your purpose is to get all the stuff that you went through, analyze it, and be like, why do these things happen to me? What is it that I continue to do all the time? And what result is it bringing? And where did I get it from? A lot of the times, the parent that you bump heads with the most is the parent that you are more similar to. I complain about my mom 100% of the time, how I can't talk to her about this and that. But guess what my wife tells me when her and I are having an argument? You complain about your mom a lot. And then I sit back and I'm like, fuck. I can't say I'm wrong, that she's wrong, or I can be like, well, you too. Exactly. When you fight with your dad, you start to realize, a la madre, like, that's a dad reaction. That's what I found out. I hated my dad. But now when I have my stepkids, I sometimes see myself in how I react with them. And that's why I'm like, no. So here's a grown person that sits with my 9-year-old and I tell her, hey, you know what, Avery? Like, I'm really sorry I reacted like this. But I was really upset because you got hurt. And I don't want you to get hurt. And it's not an excuse for me to react like this. So I apologize for that. And if I ever make you feel like scared or anything, please let me know. And you know what? This is the one kid that I probably call out even more because they're used to like getting what they want when they cry. I don't know if this is what they do with their dads or whatever. But the freaking kid is always following me. She tells her mom and her mom says yes. And she knows that it's something I'm going to say no. She comes and she's like, hey, Ricio, I'm going to do this. She used to wait for me when I would get home from work because she was excited that I was here. Kids with ADHD, and from an ADHD kid here, we thrive on structure. We may complain, we may push back, but we enjoy it because we feel seen, especially your middle kid. Most of the time when your kid is acting out is because they need some sort of attention without the repercussions. Nothing's going to happen to you if you ask your kid, hey, what's up? If you sit at eye level with your kid, that's going to be even more respect because you're giving them authority to say, good thing you apologize, my dad doesn't need your menos, which is wrong. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes you have a point there. And that's the thing. You see, you're still breaking the cycle because you're apologizing to your daughter. You're not passing it on to her. And it doesn't mean that you have to apologize every time, you know? Like, I had this conversation earlier where it's like, if this couple is going through some stuff and I guess like the kids are an issue or whatever, right? But they're already adults. I was like, why don't you have a conversation with your kid and tell him, hey, you know what? Like, I know that you don't like them, but the guy did a lot for you. So maybe you guys need to start setting boundaries and say, you know what, dude? And I'm not telling you like in person, like for yourself, but in that situation, I was like, why don't you tell them that maybe he needs to say it, because you can tell your husband that he's appreciative, but he's never going to recognize it if he doesn't hear it from him. And there's many people that are older. That's the thing about old people. And I had that issue with my mom. Because obviously my mom was the one that raised me, and we bump heads a lot because she doesn't really know me. She assumes things from like what she picks and gets from posts here and there, but she doesn't really take the time because I feel like she's scared of what I'm going to say, because I've already said a lot and my answers have been too scary. But she told me, she keeps saying that I'm on drugs and this and that, right? And I'm like, Mom, I don't do drugs. Like, I've always been skinny. I just got chunky last time, so now I'm going back to my original weight. Yeah, but you're always at your house and this and that. Okay, Mom, but I'm working through other stuff. Or when I tell her, like, hey, Mom, so I realized that I usually get triggered by this because you remember this one time? She'll be like, es que I sacrificed and I did. And then she becomes the victim. And then next thing you know, we're talking about her suffering and not mine. And I had to sit back and be like, it came to a point where like I couldn't even try. Yeah, she was stuck in the past and she still is. And you know what's crazy? You know my mom, Brenda. You know my mom, so you can attest to that. She's a sweet person, but she doesn't give herself the credit that she needs to. So I tell her, I'm like, Mom, I'm not mad at you. I understand where you're coming from. I'm telling you my experience and how I learned from it, and all the questions that I probably had and all the anger that I probably had against you at some point. I don't have it anymore because I don't need your explanations. I see how you grew up. And I love you. I love you for all your hard work. And I really want you to I really want you to see how I'm doing the work and how we can both heal together and we can both get this like harmony relationship or peaceful relationship, or just simply learn how to interact. My mom has this thing where she worries, and she worries everybody. She worries, but it sounds like criticism. And it came to the point where I would just snap. It would just ruin my day. And the other day, the Sunday that I decided to start doing this, I was like, you know what, Mom? I took a deep breath. She started asking me about stuff that I didn't have answers to right there and there. Shit, I didn't even know what was going to happen that day. But instead of reacting how I always do and how we end up arguing, I said, you know what, Mom? I love you so much. And I understand that you're telling me this from like a place where you're caring. But where I'm at right now, it comes off as criticism, and it hurts. It hurts because I'm already telling those things to myself. And I'm already working really hard to get out of that mentality. So when you come and you tell me that, it kind of gets me back where I started. You need to trust that I know what I'm doing, that I know my body, that I know my limits, and that I would never do anything to hurt you or to hurt myself. And that all I want to hear is, Mija, ¿cómo estás? How's everything going? Really? Even if you don't know what I'm talking about, even if you don't care to know, don't tell me about everybody else's problems. Ask me about my life. And I think ever since that day, and this was like Sunday, we haven't had an argument. We haven't talked as much because I feel like it's still something that she's trying to work on. But I also stopped blaming her, and I stopped snapping at random things. And with my dad, I realized that I had so much hate with him because I was like, motherfucker treated everybody else better than he treated me. But you know what? I feel bad for him because his whole life he was begging my mom to go back. And seeing a picture of him when he was a baby, I realized that he was just a baby in a grown-up adult costume. That he never really even grew with like that type of love when he was growing up. because when he would cry, he would get locked up in a trailer. You know the cotton trailers? The ones that have like fence on the side? And he would just be left there to cry for hours and hours and hours. So what was he? He was the happy go-getter. Everybody liked my dad. Everybody knew they can count on my dad. He was everybody's best friend. But then he struggled with a lot of addictions because he realized in his mind, violence, diminishing people, degrading you was love. And at some point, my brother, my sister, and myself thought that was true because that was the way that we showed love towards each other. And even in our relationships, it reflected it. But now that, like, sometimes I forget he's dead, to be honest. But it came to the point where I was like, dude, I want to hang out with you. Like, I want to get to know you. Because I realized I didn't know my dad. I heard stories about my dad, but it had already been too long since I lived with him, you know? And then I got to know him because homeboy, like, he decided to, like, take me to buy drugs and then pretend like I didn't know what was going on. I let him be. But I got home and I was like, you know what, Mom? Like, I'm gonna go tell my grandma. But my grandparents, instead of saying something to him, they were like, ay, mijo, pobrecito. And they continued to, until he died alone in his house in Tijuana, rotting away. They found him days later, just like I told him he was gonna die. And it's sad. Like, saying that felt a little hard, but there was a time when I was like 13 or 14 that he was begging my mom to go back, right? Because, mind you, my dad never looked for us. My mom would call him to come and see us. And I swear to you, in the freaking 5 years that they were, or 3 years that he came around, I probably saw him for a total of an hour from the 5 minutes accumulated each time. Because after he would come, I was excited at times to see him because motherfucker was alright. He would take us out to eat. But I already knew that once we got home, it was like, okay, mijos, váyanse para allá because I'm going to talk to your mom. And that talk to your mom lasted for hours. And it was just him begging my mom to go back, begging my mom to go back. So one day when we were at his house in 57, my grandparents were there. And mind you, everybody always, I was the one that always called everybody out. One time my grandma was like mimicking my mom. And I was like, my grandma said this about my mama. And then my dad was like, ¿Qué dijo usted de mi esposa? And then I was like, yeah, Grandma, you said. She pretended like she didn't, but then I was like, nuh-uh, Grandma, you even did the voice. So of course they weren't going to like me. But you know what? Don't be talking shit about my mama in front of me. Because I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell on you. So anyways, what was I talking about? Okay, so then he came, he was freaking begging my mom. And my mom said at this point, hell yeah, estaba remedando mi mom. Don't do that shit about my mama. And then she tried to make my aunt think that my mom didn't want to take her. I'll tell you about that story right now. So then my mom said, let's go. I was already fed up because there was no TV in his house. It was like this abandoned house pretty much. I get in the car and I'm like, okay, pues vámonos. And then my dad turns around and he's like, mija, I'm talking to your mom. Can you please get out? I'd already been here for fucking 4 hours, 6 hours. I don't know. I wanted to go home. Couldn't even pee in this fucking bathroom, right? Por eso no nos quieren, because we were the little ones. Exactly. There's always gonna be the one. That's why you're the way you are. That's why you're the black sheep, because you're the one that's supposed to break the cycle. So homeboy wanted me to get out of the car, and I was like, you know what, Mr. Sir? Let me tell you. And that day he fucking learned. I told him, you know what? Like, no, we're not gonna do this because you know what, dude? Like, you let go of my mom because you chose to be an alcoholic. My mom's a good woman. Mira, ahí entró mi ma. My mom is a good woman. And you decided that you wanted to be an alcoholic and do whatever the hell it is that you're doing. But no means no. She doesn't want to go back with you. You decided to be an alcoholic. These are the consequences of your actions. Can we please go home now? What did he do? He couldn't get out of his fucking seat as fast as he could because he wanted to jump up on me and punch me in the face. I didn't move. I just pushed back a little bit, and then my grandparents came out, and then I was in trouble because I told my dad that I wanted to go home and to be a fucking man and suck it up because he fucked up. And that was the consequences to his actions. God, man, bless my mama. She got mad at me and she said, Don't you ever talk about to your dad like that. Don't be talking about your dad like that, because regardless of what issues are between him and I, that is still your dad. She never once said anything bad about him. Yet everybody was talking bad about her because she left him, because she chose herself and her kids and her peace aside from being with somebody that didn't value her as a person. Did it take long? Yes. Guess what happened after that? My 15 years, I went to go invite my dad. Did I have to invite him to my quinceañera? No. But nobody from my dad's side of the family went because they were mad at me because I called them out and told them the truth. Because I told him what he needed to hear. And you know what? That man never recovered. He died alone. And I can tell you that my mom probably never stopped loving him. She probably still loves him now because that was her first everything. And I understand that. I feel bad. It makes me want to cry just to think about how much pain she probably went through. She cut her hair super short for the longest time because she had so much anxiety. I remember her talking to herself for hours. I guess I talked to myself for hours, and I don't remember that, but there's many things that I blocked out. Exactly. They can't take the truth. And I know that it bothered him. And I know that it bothered my grandparents to know the fact that my mom wasn't going to stay around to take that. You know, they fucking tried to tell her that she was a bad person for leaving him. How are you a bad person when this guy comes in at 2, 3 in the morning wanting you to cook for him, half drunk? I would get the beating because I get this, like, my brother was a pussy, right? I love him, but he was a pussy. He would cry because he didn't know the name of the ranches. I was the middle child, and I was the one that was always like, ni madres. You know? So because my dad and I at one point had a good relationship where I used to talk back to my mom, like he used to tell me to cuss at my mom, and I was so stupid and do it too. But then I started talking back to him. Exactamente. You know my grandma, la mamá de mi papá, cuando she tried to get a haircut one time, and her dad was abusive to her mom, where he used to beat her a lot. He was an alcoholic. He used to cheat on her left and right. Well, she said she wanted a haircut. You know, my great-grandpa shaved her head, and she was only like 16. So what can I expect? How can I expect my dad to know anything better when that's how she was raised? And she hated her dad so bad, the day he died, she stopped believing in God. And she had so much guilt that wasn't hers, so much pain that wasn't hers. And it makes me sad that she died with that. And I don't want to die like that. I don't want you guys to die like that. Think about it. You don't have to ask your dad for an apology every single time, but you can tell him, you know what, Dad, like, you and I love you, and you and I may have a bunch of issues, but I'm not going to tell you where you failed. I'm not going to tell you where I failed, but I get you. I understand where you're coming from, and I don't blame you. Be the better person and take the first step, because I can honestly tell you your dad's never going to take the first step. And he may not respond to it right away, but you're going to regret yourself. You're going to regret not being able to do it when he's here now. Take the time to do it now. I took the time to tell my dad, you know what, man, let's hang out. Let's get to know each other. And he died, but you know what? I didn't stay with that. I didn't say that I didn't try. I had to suck up a lot of my fucking shame, a lot of my embarrassment. And you know what he did? He had Ricardo going back and forth from hospital to hospital because not only was he rude to us, but he was rude to nurses, that he had diabetes, and he would go and do his thing. He's told me a few days ago, if I was a man, he would beat me up. Well, in that case, you know what? There's no shame in keeping your distance to keep your peace. I don't talk to my sister. Y ahorita me está hablando como si nada. You know why? Así soy yo. I argue, and you see, that's what I'm telling you. Like, son muchas cosas that are similar. I can tell you from both sides. I know how you feel, and he doesn't know how to apologize because he doesn't know how to handle his emotions. So he acts like everything is cool because if he does that, he's lying to himself that he wasn't the person he was with you when you guys were arguing. He loves you. He just doesn't know how to say it. you can just stop. Don't argue back. That's probably, if you don't know how to do that sometimes, I think the best thing that you can do is to not feed it. When you know that the argument is getting high and intense, just say, you know what, Dad, I don't want to interact because I know how it's going to get, and I'm trying not to argue with you anymore. You don't have to say that he's right. You don't have to say that you're wrong. Just say, you know what, I'll get back to this once we're both in a better state of mind. I don't want to talk about this right now. And if each time it continues to be like that, then just stop responding. Don't answer back. I think it's worse when you don't answer back, because and then they're left with all the anger and they're like, pero dime algo, say something. Like, honestly, girl, set yourself that goal, a tiny little goal, and say, you know what, for something that, let's say, for example, you argue about one thing every single day, que no cerraste la puerta con llave. No le contestes. O dile, ¿sabes qué, papá? Discúlpame. Exactly. I can honestly tell you it happened to me too. Or pregúntale, ¿qué es lo que quieres que te conteste? Because you're giving him the ball and he's going to feel like it's his choice when it's yours. I realize that men back in the day need to be treated with that psychology that females have, where you make them believe that they have a choice. So use your women power right there and manipúlalo, but you're gonna get there. Believe me. The fact that you can recognize that you guys don't have a good relationship is already enough. It's already a long process right there to say, you know what, him and I can't get along. I don't know how to apologize, and he doesn't know how to do it either. A lot of people don't recognize that shit. But that's why you're the black sheep. That's why you're the one that says, you know what, I'm gonna stop this. Especially if your kid is seeing it. Why? Because your daughter is learning that whenever somebody comes into her life and is loud and mean and looks like your dad, she needs to shrink, or she needs to argue back, or she needs to go on survival mode. And that's the last thing you want to do. I think that a lot of people detach. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do this sad, but I have to just stay quiet because my kids are exactly. And by you removing yourself from that situation, simply going to your room or going for a drive, go for a fucking drive. Escucha música. Be like, you know what, kids, vámonos a la chingada. Let's go for a drive. We don't need negativity. Make it like a joke, whatever you want. Make it fun for them so they see it's not something to be scared about. And explain to them, you know what, I had to leave because I was getting angry, and the last thing that I want is I don't want to say things that I don't mean. Because it's okay to get angry, but it's not okay to speak out of anger. And it's crazy because when you sit with your anger, you're like, what am I really mad about? And then it doesn't even make sense anymore. And ¿a dónde lo mando? No, and it's like, you know, like I said, you're going to understand that once you start to understand yourself, you let go of that annoyingness with them, because you start to understand where he's coming from. And it's going to think, you're going to even feel probably even more compassion for him, because you start to learn your reactions and where they're coming from. And then you're like realizing like, oh shit, like I was feeling guilty for this, y la neta ni siquiera tenía nada que ver conmigo. Ahorita, dude, there were people calling me out because their car was broken or whatever the hell, and I'd be smiling, and at the end of the call, the end of the interaction, the end of the fucking car getting fixed, they'd be apologizing. Why? Because I didn't take it personal. I know they got a lot going on. Working at the court, I realized what they have going on, and it's a lot of shit going on. But we end up making it about us, you know? We end up making it about, what do I have to lose? But then we never see ourselves in like, what am I doing to this person? How am I making this person feel? Or how would I feel if I was in front of myself? Simply looking at yourself from an outer picture, there was many times that I saw myself and thought that I was right. And then I had to sit back and see myself into like how my mom saw me, or how my brother saw me, or if I was just standing, I was just a watcher. And I'd be like, que vergüenza. Oh, cringe. That's so fucking embarrassing. Que asco. I can't believe I acted like that. And then it'd be like 3 in the morning and I'm dreaming about how I freaking, I don't know, I did something stupid in school or whatever. It's not even, where did I leave my birth certificate anymore? It's like, how could I have done that? How could I have said that? Ya andamos con la cola entre las patas. We don't know how to apologize, right? But that's the point, to learn and to say, you know what? It's never too late. Because if I've already been through it all, it's already been the worst. What else can happen? Bring it on, baby. Because you know what? I got for everybody. Ah, look at that. Me cayó esa madre. ¿A quién se le antojó mi soda, eh? And you know what? Sometimes we're so scared. Exactly. Sometimes we don't. And it's crazy because we suck it up because we have friends to go party with, but we don't have friends that can say, that you can sit down and say, you know what, like, damn, dude, like, sometimes I feel like I'm not making it as a partner. Or, like, sometimes I feel like I'm failing in this. Pensé que tenía whisky. It was you, I knew it. Se me cayó por eso. Sabía que se me había tirado por algo. ¿A quién se le antojó? Es nomás sodita, es pura coquita. Coquita con hielo. But, you see, mendiga, you got powers. Shit, imagínate si hiciste que se me tirara la soda. Si te enfocaras en decir, a la madre voy a ser rica. Verás, cuando sea rica, I'm gonna be like, you see what I told you guys? Now are you gonna listen to me? La neta, it's easier said than done. Pero ponte a pensar todo lo que le has batallado. How far you got. How low you've been. And you thought you weren't gonna get out of it. But then you're right here listening to me right now. You're here with enough time to be wasting it away with me. Isn't that awesome? Like, a la madre. I had to sit and look back and say, a la madre, like, there was times that I didn't even have anything to eat. I didn't have anything to fucking feed my sister, but here I did it. And I did it by myself. And I even fucking supported a whole ass family by myself. What the fuck? I didn't even know how to do my own, like, doctor appointments, but here I am living it away. I'm being a grown-up. I want to be a kid again, man. And it's crazy because when you start actually paying attention to yourself, the kid in you comes out again, that side of you that you thought was already gone, and the one that everybody says, like, ay, antes eras bien curada, antes te gustaba salir, or lo que sea. Why? Because you're no longer thinking about all that shit. You're no longer feeling guilty. And if you do, you feel it, but you're like, whatever. Chavos, I'm telling you, write things down in the morning. Simply, or put your WhatsApp and send yourself a message of saying, ¿sabes qué, morra? Eres bien chingona la chingada. Pinche Jenny Rivera ni que nada. Pump yourself up. You don't need a fucking meditation app or a motivational video to pump you. You don't need me to tell you how much you've done. You need to train, because at the end of the day, you're going to be by yourself, taking a shit or in the shower, thinking about your life. I'm not going to be there. It's just going to be you and that little voice in your head. So you got to train it. You got to train it to when you start feeling like you can't do it anymore, for it to tell you, hey, wait, aliviánate, compa. Agárrate. Ni madres. No empieces con tus mamadas that we're not going to do this shit. Because let me tell you, me doing these 3 lives a day was a challenge for myself. Because I always start something and I never finish it. The second that I have like the slightest inconvenience, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Because I'm gonna get wrinkles. Nah, shit. Because, like, I don't know, I'm tired. I've always, like, have respected my recovery time. And it's good to respect your recovery time. But you know what's not good? When it's been a week and you're still in the same spot. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to start small. I'm going to start showing up for myself. And if I can do this, then you better watch out, because I'm going to come for you. And everything starts to line up afterwards. Everything lines up eventually. And then I realized how much it was actually getting attention. How much many people from my past started to come up. Many people that I had on Facebook for years and never interacted with. And that I'm now starting to have like a more personal interaction with. That's fucking awesome. It's awesome when somebody has a bad, like, especially me. Everybody thought that I was this and I am. I'm fucking immature. I'm crazy as fuck. I'm impulsive. I have to get back to work driving, luego me met. Thank you for joining me, la neta, like, I'm gonna be back later at night at 7, I think. So I'll see you later. Be safe, drive safe. But I stood up for myself because I was like, you know what? That's crazy. It's actually helping somebody. And it's actually, see you later, man. Be safe, Brianda. Don't text and drive. But it's actually helping somebody. Somebody's actually going through it too. Somebody actually needed to hear it. Don't you ever get those people that you sometimes run into and then you're like, well, isn't that crazy? I was feeling this way and then this. It always happens to me. I would wake up in the morning feeling like I hadn't accomplished anything. I'm going to the same job that I hate. And then the first person I would help, they'd be like, qué bonita, or like, ay, mija, like, you just have like this something in you where like, you're just so kind. Ay, mija, que Dios te bendiga. I love it when older ladies would come up to me and be like, mija, que Dios te bendiga. There was this lady one time that was going to get married, and it was a 94-year-old man and like a 70-year-old lady, right? So they come in and I'm like, did you guys ask your parents? Did you guys ask your kids? Or did you tell your kids you guys were going to come and get married? And then the guy was like, 90 years old, huh? Imagine asking for permission. I was like, I don't know, guys. I got to get permission from your kids. So they were cracking up. And then by the end, like the lady reminded me of my grandma a lot. And in the end, like the lady was like, ay, mija, te quiero mucho. She had just met me. They came in, they were like, we're going to get married this day and we want you to be here with us when we get married. And I was like, okay, papas, you go have a good day. They came in to get married. They introduced me to their whole family. They were like, mira, esta niña is the one that helped us. Oh, she's such a blessing. I love it. There's times that I had seen people that come in all freaking anxious in front of me, and I'm like, hey, like, chill. I got you. Tell me what you need, and I'm going to help you out. And I try my best to explain them everything. And then they're like, damn, like, thank you so much. Like I didn't know it was this easy, or nobody took the time to. Those 5 extra seconds that you take with someone make a huge difference. You don't even know. And don't be so angry when you're running late. Maybe you weren't supposed to be on the street at that time. Don't be so hard on yourself when you don't show up. Continue to show up, even if it's not on time. I'm really bad with time. I'm trying to show up on time. It's something that I know I got to work on now because I know that I can be consistent. I just want you guys to feel better. I want you guys to have a lighter heart, to know that it doesn't matter what situation you go through or what experience. It does not, no es ni menos, ni más grande, ni más chiquita que la de la otra persona. We all have feelings. We all go through shit. And it's okay. It's okay, baby. I got you. It's okay because look at how far you got. How far you got until 2026. Who would have freaking thought we'd be alive in 2026? The aliens are taking too long to get here, let me tell you, because they should have been here since 2000. But they're coming. Just be safe. I'll see you guys at 7, maybe 8 o'clock. I want to say between 7 and 8. Probably 8 because it's already going to be 3. I got to go chill. Be safe, guys. I love you guys. And if you guys ever see anybody that is getting called out in public, be that person that makes a change. Be that person that says something because you don't even know. You don't know what you cause with just speaking up. And don't be scared to speak up. What's the worst they can say? No. Thank you so much, Lupita, for your support. Honestly, I understand if you can't get on all the times. The fact that you got on is more than enough for me. Thank you so much. You guys be safe. I'll see you guys later. Coman, se lavan la cola, se bañan, cuiden a sus hijos, no anden en el face, no es cierto. Bye.